Hola. So today I wanted to talk about and do a devotional on something that's super important to me, super near and dear to my heart, and that is community. Um, so community has always been kind of a big deal for me. It's always been really important to me. I grew up in the Latino community, and we are a very collectivistic culture. That meaning, we kind of celebrate everything together. We consider each other. We do things together, and it even goes to the extent of like when one of us graduates high school. The family graduated high school. When one of us gets a bachelor's degree, master's degree, a PhD, the community gets a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a PhD. We share and we celebrate each other's triumphs, and we lament all of the bad things that happen in our community, and we really just share with each other. And community has always been something just ingrained into my life, and it's been such a beautiful thing really to grow up with. um, so that is the whole reason that I even became a marriage and family therapist. um, when I was younger, my dad actually was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, and we didn't know what that was. We didn't know what depression was, and those around us, our community, didn't know what that was, and we didn't know how to deal with it. We didn't know how to handle it, how to make it better, how to make it go away. And it was really hard to navigate that because you don't really know where you're going or what you're doing, and you don't know what you're dealing with. So as I got older, really wanted to become a resource for my community. I wanted to be somebody who could get information and then give it back to my community. I never wanted another family to have the confusion that mine did. So that's why I even do what I do, because my community matters so much to me. Um, and even in the Latino culture, it's hard because there are certain things that are very hush hush. We don't talk about mental illness. We don't talk about things that go on in the family. We are very just kind of closed, right? Like a closed family um, kind of communication. Like what happens in the family stays there. Other people don't need to know. Um, so it's really important to encourage one another. And speaking of encouragement, that kind of brings me to the passage that I want to focus on, which is Hebrews 10:24 and 25. So a little bit of background, the book actually has an unknown author. And I was kind of digging for some information on that because I really wanted to know why. And it turns out that it used to be thought that Paul was the writer, just because of the way that the book was written. But then it was kind of determined that it was not Paul, or it could not be Paul, and it was like a second generation Christian, just again because of the verbiage of the book. But the book was meant to encourage. It's a book of encouragement for believers, and it also has some warnings in there for believers. But it's basically talking about like don't lose faith, hold strong, help each other stay strong, help others stay strong. So we're going to go into reading the verse now. So we're going to grab our Bibles. We're going to go to Hebrews 10, chapter 10, verses 24 and 25. And it says, "And let us consider one another in order to stir up love and good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as is the manner of some, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching." So I really like this passage because it talks about exhorting one another, considering one another, right? Think about one another and encourage one another, right? To consider, to think about those around you, and to exhort one another, really just to lift one another up, to lift each other up. And this, it all kind of ties back to love, right? Are we loving one another like Christ would love? Can other people see Christ in us and through us? I think it's important because we can't say, I hate my coworker or I hate this person and then say, but I'm showing the love of Christ. It's really hard because there's always going to be people in our lives that we come across that we don't like, and it's hard to say, yeah, I'm going to pray for them, and I'm still going to show them all the love in the world, and I'm still going to encourage them, and I'm still going to try and stir up good in them, good deeds. I know for me, when I was a teenager, well, first of all, I've been at my church for like 14 years now. It's been a minute since I've been there. But when I was about 17 years old, I got into this really bad car accident. I was in the car with my mom and my dad. We were coming home from my cousin's birthday party from a quinceañera, and this person kind of pushed our car, and it was like a mountain area, so it's kind of steep, and our car actually rolled down the side, and it rolled several times, like 9 or 10 times. And we were just kind of like sitting at the bottom. And then somebody came down and they helped us. And we called the police, and, we got out of it. But even there, people stopped and they came down to make sure we were okay. These complete strangers, they kind of risked themselves too, because it's like a busy kind of highway, busy little part. And so they risked themselves to come see if we were okay. That's even just the first thing that comes into my head. And then afterwards, my church community came together, and I had to go to school. Excuse me. Life still had to go on. House had to be cleaned. Dinner had to be cooked. But the thing is, there was somebody every day to take me to school. We didn't have a car. My parents couldn't drive at the time. They were really hurt. So somebody always took me to school. And there was always lunch on the table when I got home. My parents had eaten, and somebody had came and made breakfast and lunch, and they left dinner there so that my mom wouldn't have to cook. And then the next day somebody else would come, and they would clean the house and make sure everything looked good. And then the next day somebody would come just to pray with my dad, pray with my parents. Maybe I was at school, or they would pray with all of us. And it was such an amazing, amazing thing to see, really, just my community come together and serve us in that way. And at that time, I was going through just some really dark stuff, and felt like I was kind of being swallowed up by all of that darkness around me. And seeing all of the love that people had for us, and all the love that they shared for us, all the good deeds that they did for us, stirred something up in me. And it really just helped me out of that moment. And seeing how they cared for and loved for us and considered us really encouraged me, and it uplifted me, and it really did help me get out of a place that I thought I was going to be stuck in forever. And God really, really does have a purpose for absolutely every single thing that happens, good or bad. So, I encourage you to be encouraging in your community, to be that person who lifts somebody up, to be that person who prays nonstop for somebody who might need some encouraging, to be the person who does a good deed and stirs up good deeds in others, be the person who considers others, someone who loves on others. And to consider someone is to think of them, and if we're thinking about each other, we're building a brighter, a better, a more beautiful community, and one where Christ is the center of it all. And I think that would make the greatest impact in any community, and it could be the best thing for any community.